night, recording, drinking champagne as usual. I keep on saying I'm gonna forget to tell what episode it is. I'm guessing it's 17.
I
But
think it might be 18. I'm not
oh,
sure. I keep waiting for you to do the all elite wrestling thing and just say it's Wednesday. You know what that means.
yeah.
But
Well, I got a Ron Flatter size pour of wine here.
oh, wow. Is now what you need is for a Ron Flatter sized glass where it's as big as your head.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
is probably only like a third of a bottle of wine, right? This is probably what I think most restaurants consider 2 glasses of wine.
Yes.
But
But
yeah,
Ron Flatter considers it pre gaming.
Ron Flatter basically puts an entire bottle of wine in a bottle. He's got one
Yeah.
of those full bottle things. But yeah, Andrew, I know we got here. It took a while, but we got here. We're a little late. But I know you had a story that you wanted to lead off the show with. So I'm gonna give you the floor, which I basically do all the time, since you love to hear yourself talk.
Well,
But
no, this is a cool thing, though. This
okay,
isn't
let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Andrew bloviates things. This is really cool. So there are some things in my life that I have been fortunate enough to do and be a part of. For instance, this is a group of 3 things that I don't think anybody else on the planet has done. Okay, this is one of those things that makes me me. So, thing number 1, I was an extra on All That on Nickelodeon when I was in 5th grade. That's thing number 1. Thing number 2, okay, thing number 2, I got to work a renewal of the Olympic Games. Thing number 3 is going to come out later this week. We're recording this on Wednesday night, so it'll probably be Thursday or Friday. Josh, I got quoted in the Wall Street Journal. So here's the story behind this. I don't know if you remember this thing that happened to me because, look, a lot of things happen to me for no rhyme or reason. Things follow me wherever I go. In mid-December, when I flew home for a quick holiday trip, there was an incident on the plane that I was on where some ignoramus got caught vaping in
Yeah,
the
you told me
bathroom
about
on
this.
the
Yep.
plane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I tweeted about that. And again, this was 6 weeks ago or thereabouts. So I figure, I'm not going to hear anything more about that. Last week, I get a notification on Twitter from a woman that works for the Wall Street Journal. She's their travel writer. Apparently, this is an epidemic, Josh, of people either not realizing you can't vape on planes or not caring and just vaping anyway.
I'm gonna say it's the
Funny,
latter.
well,
But
funny thing about these vapes, the batteries that are in them, they can go boom.
mm-hmm.
That's generally frowned upon when you're in this big, huge, long canister at 30,000 feet. You generally don't want things to go boom, right?
Yep, you can't.
So,
You actually can't check a vape pen, but you can carry one on. But you can't check one.
yeah. So, apparently, that's an epidemic, and it's something that she had been writing about. She saw my tweet. I chatted with her for 10 minutes. She's a wonderful person. Can't wait to read the article. And yeah, so I'm going to be in the Wall Street Journal for that. Got to say, it wasn't what I thought I would eventually wind up being in the Wall Street Journal for, but that's just how it shakes out. It's never dull, Josh. Never dull.
Me personally, I'm actually rooting for her not using any of your quotes in the article.
She already called me to fact check some stuff.
Goodness gracious, I can't catch a break. Dude, so today, what's funny is, and we'll talk a little bit more about Turfway in a little bit. Well, we'll roll into it from here, I think. But today, so Turfway usually runs like an 8 race card
Yeah.
on the weekdays, and so the early and late usually have 1 or 2 races in common.
Right.
And so I get through 4 legs of the early pick 5, and I tell Caleb, I'm like, I have a feeling this is one of those nights where I'm going to play the early and the late, and one of the the races that are in common are going to just knock me out of both.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, race 5, I did not have the winner. I was like 5 wide in that race, and I didn't have the winner. And I was like, oh my goodness, it was the early paid well enough. It was pretty funny. My I basically made my money back in 4 out of 5s, which is funny. But I didn't have the last race either, so luckily I got 2 races wrong. So I was able to feel a little bit better about that. But the more interesting thing about Turfway tonight, there was a late pick 5 carryover,
Okay.
and it seemed pretty clear that it was a late pick 5, but there were still questions, right? Because for the longest time, Turfway Park only had one pick 5 on each card, unless it was a big day. So, friends of mine were reaching out to Turfway directly, like, "Hey, is this carryover? This pick 5 carryover? Is it to the early or is it to the late?" Everybody said late. Everybody said late. Everybody said late. And it was just like, I don't know. Everyone kind of just felt weird about it still. It's like, is it really the late? Is it the early? But no. I mean, someone DM'd Turfway Park and is like, no, it's the late. Jimmy McNerney gets on the microphone probably about 20 minutes, 10 minutes or something before the first post and talks about the big old early pick 5 carryover.
Oh no.
And keeps on talking about this early pick 5 carryover.
Oh no.
And then you start seeing the pool climb and climb and climb. And you're like, is it the early or is it the late that's carrying over? Everybody was saying it was the late. Andrew, I kid you not. Race goes off. Race ends. And it's funny because I get off work around 5, and then I usually go pick my wife up. So I'm usually not home for the first race, or maybe I catch the end of the first race and then I gotta go. And I'm sitting there and I didn't catch the race, but I got on and I saw I saw a horse I had, had won, and Jimmy saying, correction, the pick 5 carryover is to the late. After he literally spent 10 minutes
Oh my god.
talking about the early, and then after the first race, he says, hey, it's actually to the late. So it's incredible.
For
It's
those that are
incredible.
listening in podcast form, I have my head in my hands right now. How is that allowed to happen?
I don't know. Like it's interesting. So your favorite Twitter personality, ITP,
I have
had
no
mentioned,
problem with ITP except the messaging. The basis of what he's saying is right. I have a problem with the delivery sometimes.
but he makes a good point. He's like, how much of this, how much of the pool was attributed to people who might have gotten confused. And what's even funnier is I just randomly was talking to Tommy Massis, and I had said something about it to him because I was having this phone conversation with him, and he goes yeah, he's like, you and I are probably smart enough to know that the carryover is the late, but just imagine somebody just got off of work, pops on the Turfway feed, and hears the announcer talk about this early pick 5 carry, and they're like, well, hey, this is an opportunity. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to handicap this and put money into this pool, and it turns out to be false. I have a buddy who very very sharp handicapper, probably the best Turfway player I know. He's just amazing. I have no idea how he does it, and he was like, Jimmy sounded so sure. Like, I put more money into the early because I thought that the carryover could have been possibly in the early, even though everybody said it was a late. I don't think anything's gonna happen, right? This is just another one of those quote unquote lessons learned that we're gonna have, and nothing's gonna happen, But it's just like, man, like I don't understand how something like that happens, and you know, I mean, maybe if it was somebody else, I would cut a little bit more slack. But there was, I don't know if you remember the other Jimmy McNerney pick 5 story. Do you remember this?
This has happened twice.
No. So maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, um, they before Caitlin Free was doing the pre, and I think
Shout out
this
to Caitlin. We love her.
I love Caitlin. And there is, I can't remember if it's after Fat Bald Guy Racing was doing it or before he was doing it, but Jimmy used to do the handicapping as well as the announcing, and he
Sure.
gave out a pick five ticket, and he had a single in the pick five ticket, and then maybe four races in on Twitter, he posts, "Hey, I might be sitting on a big one here." Posts his ticket that not only doesn't have the same single that he posted on the public ticket he gave out,
Oh no.
but I don't even think he included that horse on his ticket.
Oh
And sure
no.
enough, he cashes the ticket for it's like 10 grand or something. So like having that in the background, like it's just like, man, this is just some like shady stuff. Like I love the product at Turfway Park. I have my problems with CDI, obviously, with the closing of Arlington, but um, yeah, it was just a really really bad look tonight.
Here's a question. How many people that don't usually play Turfway Park played tonight, played the early pick five thinking it was a carryover, and now are never going to bet that track again? I
I
sure
don't
as
know.
hell wouldn't. And look, we're in sort of a tricky spot here because you and I both love Caitlin. We know people that work at Turfway Park. We know people that work at CDI. Generally speaking, these people mean well. They're passionate about the product. And I guarantee you there is an uncomfortable internal conversation that's going on right now. This shit can't happen. It just can't. It's unacceptable. There's got to be something that's going on somewhere in order to make things right for the horse player if Turfway Park's ever going to be taken seriously with carryovers again. Now, I got to tell you, Turfway is not usually in my rotation of tracks that I play. It's not. Another track that we're going to talk about in a little bit usually has that spot. This year, not so much. That's called foreshadowing, kids. It darn sure doesn't have that spot now. Why would I play when the simulcast feed? It's one thing if it's a bad tweet, right? If it's a bad tweet, you can delete that, you can put out a correction, whatever.
Do you remember Kentucky Downs earlier or last year?
On the simulcast feed, though, like it's one of those things that is just a should not occur. And in a world where sports betting has so much technology that is being used on a forget daily basis, on a minute by minute basis, horse racing can't get carryover information correct on its own simulcast feed.
On its own
Guys,
track.
what are we doing? What are we doing? How can anybody take us seriously when we don't take ourselves seriously?
Yeah, I remember there was a early pick five, and Kentucky Downs tweeted out an image, right, with their scratches for the day. And I remember I was talking with Caleb, and so Caleb was noting the scratches, right? He places his ticket, and race one goes off, and he notices one of the horses he had before the scratches was still in the race. They tweeted out the wrong scratches.
Oh boy.
So they scratched a horse on their tweet that wasn't actually scratched, and it's tough because Twitter is a very very great source of getting stuff, up to the minute stuff like that. I mean I know like the Equibase site is right the source of truth, but the Equibase site is also still living in the early 2000s. But that's another story, right? Like Equibase's site is the least of Equibase's problems with me, and like I said, we can go all night on this stuff.
Hi,
But
Ellis Carr. How you doing?
um,
Because trust me, he's going to see that.
I met Ellis actually the other day. Nice guy. He was nice to talk to. Nice guy might not be the right word, but he was
Ellis
nice to talk
Starr
to.
had a summer working for the New York Daily News for the Battle of Saratoga segments that inspired the bankroll stuff I do, where he could not miss. It was the most remarkable thing I have ever seen from a public handicapper. And Josh, you know that there are some public handicapper things I feel very strongly about. Most remarkable summer at Saratoga from a wagering perspective I ever saw out of somebody that publishes their stuff on a regular basis.
Um, but I, I was making a point somewhere in there, but yeah, like this kind of stuff happens all the time, right? Like if you're an official Twitter account, like you gotta get that information right. Like
Yeah.
that's just a shame. And
Well, it's a little different though. I will say this: if you have a Twitter account and something goes out there and you hear somebody say, "Oh, that's not right," whatever, you've got the opportunity to delete the tweet and put correct information out there. I did not see the incident in question on Wednesday night at Turfway Park. I was out with my fiance on date night and helping her get a couple of things for her fifth graders expedition to an overnight camp next week. She is really going to need this Hawaii trip in a week and a half, just saying. Um, this is a different animal. This is a Track's own simulcast feed with, you would think, somebody who is a producer type having the chance to get into Jimmy McNerney's ear and correct the mistake. That didn't happen. For as easy as it is to pile on to the messenger, a lot of people probably had chances to tell him, hey, this isn't right. What's going on here? And that didn't happen. This merits a complete re-examination of a lot of different workflows, because chances are a lot of money went into that pool that otherwise wasn't going to go into that pool. And if you don't say anything or do anything, what does it say about your respect for the bettor that put their money down in that sequence and wound up not getting the bill of goods they were sold?
hey, racetracks, you see how much money people put into the pool if you seed it? Maybe you should think about that too.
Some tracks do, not all,
I forgot
some.
who it was. Someone seeded like a pick six or pick five or something, and they ended up doing really well. I forgot who it was. I mean, Canterbury does great with their 12% takeout, which obviously gets offset by a lot, and rolling into 12% takeout. How about the just epic Lucy pulling the football move that the Texas Racing Commission pulled on us?
I've got a question before we go any further.
Uh huh.
You mentioned Lucy pulling the football. Which on the wrong lead person was it that tweeted the GIF of Lucy pulling
Oh,
the
that's
football?
me. I control the. I control
Can
the.
you hit the applause button on yourself, please? Outstanding. That was outstanding work by you. And yeah, quick thing. Since this is our third time, and I believe the last 3 weeks, maybe four, talking about the nonsense at Sam Houston Race Park. Of course, we know the Texas Racing Commission has barred Sam Houston from sending its signal to ADWs outside the state of Texas. Last week, it came out, hey, there was a victory against HISA in the court case. Sam Houston's decided, oh, yes, we're going to start sending our signal out with the Friday, February 3rd race card. Hooray! And there was much rejoicing on horse racing Twitter. And then the morning of Friday, February 3rd, I woke up to 4 different texts from people I will not identify saying some element of LOL Texas. I get online. A little while later, Sam Houston tweets out the official letter basically saying, yeah, we're not offering our signal. There's still some stuff we need to sort out. Here are my problems. One, I'm not concerned anymore about whether or not I can bet on Sam Houston. The Texas Racing Commission has flushed any and all goodwill that I have for Sam Houston Race Park down the drain, which is a real shame. But the people on the front side that have gotten jerked around got jerked around again. From a messaging standpoint, Josh, if I was to tell you that the tweet they sent out on Wednesday, February 1st, saying, we're back, we'll be showing our signal, post time is still in the afternoons, we're reevaluating. If I was to tell you that that tweet was still up a week later, after all the things that have gone down, would you be surprised?
No, but I also don't think
It's
that
still up.
people.
That
Yeah,
tweet is still up.
yeah, but I don't think people are as revisionist on Twitter, as you think they are, where like they're actually concerned about deleting tweets and stuff like that. I mean, think about how many. Do you remember like 2 or 3 years ago where it seemed like every week somebody was coming out and they're like, "Oh, look at these tweets from 8 years ago when this person was 16." Like, do you remember the guy, the beer guy, the guy who got that like endorsement from holding up like, "Hey, send me beer money" at like some college game day? Someone like someone dug up like, I don't know, some like tweets where he used inappropriate language,
Mhm.
whether I forgot what it was, but from like when he was 16. It's like,
So
dude,
that's one part of it. Can I just explain my bona fides real quick for anybody that doesn't necessarily know who I am, where I came from, whatever? I ran the social media accounts for Siena College's athletic department, the Pink Sheet in the summers at Saratoga, for HRTV, for TVG, and for the Daily Racing Form. When it comes to social media and information distribution and getting information to people as they're supposed to be, in theory, betting on these races and giving them the information they need and the links they need and whatnot to be able to do that with some element of confidence, I'd like to think I know a little bit more than the average bear with regard to that. You got to respect your customers. That's first and foremost. Josh, do you think Sam Houston and the Texas Racing Commission are doing that at all whatsoever right now? Not at all. Not at the slightest. And that's what ticks me off the most. I'm looking at Sam Houston's Twitter and I see someone, whoever it is that's managing this Twitter, basically being told to operate as if everything is normal, as if everything is fine, as if everything is awesome. That's depressing because it's not. And trying to present an image that goes counter to reality, that doesn't help anybody at all. I understand you can't tweet, "Oh, I know you can't bet on it, but the Space City 6 is coming up next." Then shy away from the handicapping stuff because you're not going to hit your audience. The people that are your audience are the ones that have already come in the door. You think they're on Twitter? No. It's just thoroughly bonkers to me that we're here from a regulatory standpoint. The one red boarding thing I will say on this, Josh, when we talked about the Sam Houston situation last week, and I said there were probably going to be more twists to the story, there were more twists to the story. I couldn't have even foreseen this. And now, not only are we back where we started, we don't have a timeline. We don't have a timetable of when Texas horse racing signals are going to be exported to the public. Forget about Sam Houston for a minute. Lone Star, Ritama. It's not good. And if we're in a situation where now, forget about Sam Houston, we don't know when the next time anybody outside the state of Texas, in the United States, I should say, my buddy JD Fox would be very angry at me if I didn't point out that Canadians and people outside the United States can bet on Sam Houston. It's ugly. And it's one of those instances where, again, you're screwing your audience. And what rationale would they have to come back to your product when you've basically told them, "Oh, wait, just kidding. Don't need you. Bye-bye." It's such a failure in how you present your product. It's such a failure in knowing your audience. And meanwhile, Josh, if you look at what the Super Bowl is going to do, handle wise, around the country this year, both through legal avenues and offshore avenues that I would not recommend, I don't know how much of a contrast you need in order to prove that horse racing, by comparison, at least in some outlets, is in the dark ages. And I know there are going to be people who see this and hear this, and they're not going to be mad at horse racing for being in the dark ages. They're going to be mad at me for saying so. Bring it on. I
I
know
don't know
that's
who I'm booing. I'm booing somebody. Someone's
I
getting
know
booed.
that's supposed to be funny, but at the same time, stop killing the messengers who say there are problems with your game and fix the problems with your game.
I have one really big problem with what you said, Andrew. It's a
Hit me.
humongous problem.
Don't literally hit me. I might be six
Yeah.
foot five, but I'm a marshmallow and would wilt. What you got?
You said you had a really really good chance to, instead of saying, I think you said something like something about thoroughly. You could have just like gone thoroughbredly, and I'm just really sad that you didn't take the chance to get that pun in.
I get in enough puns literally everywhere else in my daily existence. I got nominated for Dad of the Year at Katina Media, not because I am a father figure or have paternal instincts, but because I put dad jokes in our Slack channel on a regular basis. Including, by the way, this one. Josh, did you hear the horrible news about the Pillsbury Doughboy?
No.
Pillsbury Doughboy passed away. It's a really sad thing. The funeral is tomorrow at 3:50 for about 30 minutes. Waka, waka, waka. I'm saving the puns for where I need them. When it comes to the state of this game and people not showing any respect for it, but being very quick to crucify the people who say, hey, you have a problem, fix it, it's not the time for puns. That's the time for legitimate anger.
Yeah, I was actually I was having a conversation earlier today, and it just something came up where it's just like, when you think about it, just how thin-skinned some people in racing are in very important positions, it's ridiculous. It's just like, if you come out, and it's not even, I'm not even talking about people like straight up attacking, right? If you go on Twitter, right, you have people attacking, jockeys attacking, like, being very, very forceful, and, expletives, all kind of stuff. But in racing, it's like, if you criticize anything, it's like you get blacklisted. Andrew,
Josh?
I know Andrew, I know you probably know this better than most. You got the story, I know, and it was just funny because, like, I was talking to somebody else earlier today who is in horse racing, but isn't like one of horse racing guys, and he's like, I can't say stuff, I can't say anything, and it's just like, yeah, that's messed up.
Josh, one person needs to pass away or leave the game. If that happens, we will have an emergency podcast and I will tell the story you're talking about. But somebody needs to go away first. That's my promise.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, hey, enough negativity. Why don't we look at some actual racing here? So normally we do a sequence or something, but we were kind of pressed for time this week with stuff getting pushed back. So we're just gonna look at one race that
Withers!
was rescheduled from last week. The Withers Grade 3 Derby points on the line here again. The first Derby prep here in the East Coast.
It's the
Um,
second one technically because the Jerome was in January, but it's the first Derby prep race for 3-year-olds going 2 turns. The
what's
Jerome
the
is a 1 turn mile.
Yeah, what's the in between? It's the Withers,
Gotham.
the Gotham, and then what's the last one?
It
The Wood
goes
Memorial,
Withers,
right?
Gotham, Wood.
Okay. Yeah, and once again, guys, I'm still, I've only been following horse racing for a couple of years, and I still don't freaking know this stuff
Well,
because
it's good you've got a stubborn New Yorker on that can set you straight about this.
I'll raise my no longer Ron Flatter filled glass, but more normal filled glass
Bonus
now.
points, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, you saw Josh multiple times do the sommelier sip as he's moving it around his
I
face.
was
He
just
was
being a smart ass because you were talking
trying to
about
get
some bougie shit
trying to
there.
get all of the embers into his nostrils, because that's apparently the way you're supposed to do this. I live an hour south of Napa Valley, by the way. I am not one to talk about that.
No, it's funny because I enjoy a good wine, but I really just never I never really like I never really just paid up for it, right? Like, I mean, good wine is expensive. I mean, it doesn't have to be like prohibitively expensive, right? But hey, like, splitting a bottle of wine, um, $25, $30 bottle of wine, which is probably we'll say mid-range price bottle of wine, right?
At this point now, with what's coming out of Napa, it's like lower mid range. It's not bad, but
Yeah.
there's better stuff out there.
But like, I don't know, that's the price of 2 or 3 6 packs of high quality like IPAs,
Yeah,
you know? So it like when you put it in perspective, right? It's expensive. It's also about half the price of a good bottle of bourbon, which you get much, much more mileage out of. So
yeah.
it's just kind of like that. That's always kind of stopped me. But I got a buddy of mine, Nick. Shout out Nick Vengi. He gave me some suggestions for some wine. We have a membership to this wine club for this local place here that sources all their wine, and it's generally good. It's probably a couple bucks too expensive for what it is, but it's pretty decent. And yeah, Napa is definitely on the list of places that I want to go. My wife likes wine. I think we'd have a really great time out there. But
I've got a guest room.
as I swirl my wine there,
There you go.
thinking, but
Now, the Withers. So this is a mile and an eighth, as we mentioned, 2 turns, drew a field of 8, and your morning line 8-5 favorite draws the rail. That's number 1, Arctic Arrogance, who last time out, Josh, I don't know if you saw the Jerome live or if you watched a replay. I have never seen Jose Lezcano more confident in a horse than he was on Arctic Arrogance going around the turn in the Jerome. He's looking all around, just trying to see where anybody could potentially be coming from, and he looks like he's loaded. One problem. The horse that wound up winning the Jerome turned him back. Arctic Arrogance looked that horse in the eye and got out kicked. That's the second straight time that's happened. He was second in the Grade 2 Remsen behind a horse in WNL that I believe is going to be running at Tampa Bay Downs this coming Saturday as part of their big card. 8-5 is too short. I know he adds blinkers. I know that that's supposed to help horses that tend to hang a little bit. I see a horse that has speed, but there's other speed in this race too. You look on the far outside, there are going to be horses that need to clear. Andiamo off Firenze, and by the way, 7-horse field, not 8, misspoke. Andiamo off Firenze, sprinter speed. I don't think Arctic Arrogance is going to be out kicking that one early. Now, I don't think Arctic Arrogance needs the lead, but I also don't think he wants to be head-to-head with horses the whole way around when it's shown that maybe he doesn't want to pass others. If the morning line winds up holding, I think Arctic Arrogance is an underlight. That's not to say he doesn't have talent. That's not to say he can't win. But I look at the other horse that's likely to take a fair amount of play, and that's number 4, Hit Show, who comes in for trainer Brad Cox. And I see a horse that's 2 for 3. Last time out was very impressive at Oaklawn. The race 2 back, little bit of a clunker, but he had an excuse at the start. And that race aged pretty well, considering that day's runner-up has since won the Holy Bull, which I know wasn't a fantastic race, but wouldn't you say, looking at this race, that the Holy Bull was probably better than what the Withers winds up being? At the very least, it's close, right?
yeah, I think it's close.
So I see that. I see Hit Show coming back to 1 turn as opposed to the 2 turns this horse ran 2 starts ago. And Josh, I love the work tab. I see a horse that's been throwing bullets, that's been working very well at Oaklawn, a place where there's a lot of very fast horses. I see a horse that doesn't necessarily need the lead. By the way, I misspoke again. Can you tell that I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off all night? My goodness. It is a 2-turn race, but I see a closer in a race with a fair amount of speed, and that speed not necessarily maybe wanting to go 2 turns. I think Andiamo off Firenze may very well be a 1-turn miler type, or may very well just be a horse that feasts on New York bred races. I think there's a lot to like with Hit Show here. 9-5 second choice on the morning line. I think 9-5 is fair. If they decide to hammer Arctic Arrogance and that one drifts up a little bit, I'll be all over that one. I think it's a single in your multi-race exotics. And I think Hit Show winds up getting the Derby points that are on the line in the Grade 3 Withers on Saturday at Aqueduct.
Yeah, I went a different direction than you.
Okay, here we go. This is good. This is real good.
Yeah, so there's two horses in this race that I'm interested in.
Okay.
I actually don't have morning lines, so I would appreciate if you let me know if I'm getting a price on either of these.
Sure,
Um,
I'll get David Aragona's morning line up on Twitter, assuming it's working.
okay. Yeah, I landed on two horses here. I'm gonna talk about my second choice first, which is gonna be the 6 horse 90% Maddie. Um, if this horse ran anywhere but Parks and ran that same race last time out, I think that this horse would be I don't know. I think I would be much more interested in in this horse. The problem is I generally think that speed figures from Parks are at least a little bit, if not sometimes grossly inflated. So I kind of have a hard time believing the last out, which is a 94 on the Brisnet. But the horse is coming in good form, right? Ran second in a juvenile race. It was in the slop, and not necessarily a breeding that looks like it wants to slop. So we can kind of forgive that. But I don't know. I thought the 6 was gonna at least give you a little bit of value here. Maybe kind of fly under the radar on lesser known trainer, lesser known connections, shipping in from Parks. There might be something there. Did you have the price up for the 6?
8 to 1.
8 to 1. Yeah, that's basically what I thought.
Yep.
My top pick, and this is a type of horse I normally don't like to bet, is the 3 Jungfrau here for Bill Mott and Dylan Davis.
4 to 1.
4 to 1 here on this horse, and I think this is probably going to be like your third or fourth choice in there.
Looks like the third choice pretty clearly. Arctic Arrogance 8 to 5, Hit Show 9 to 5, Jungfrau 4 to 1. Two horses at 8 to 1. The others in double digits.
I really think that this horse is definitely bred to go the distance. This is definitely a horse I think is going to get better with more and more distances. Maybe one that might even peak at that second or third prep. But here gets a mile and an eighth, one of the earlier preps that go 2 turns and go that extra eighth of a mile. And yeah, I mean, Arrogate on top, Tap It on bottom. Broke its maiden last time out. I know it got placed first through disqualification, but the horse has gotten better, better, and better each start. And that's just Bill Mott's kind of MO, right? He brings his horses along slowly. So I definitely think that this could be a horse that is going to go ahead and just take that step forward. And if this horse does take a step forward, he's right there in with the 2 favorites, the 1 Arctic Arrogance and the 4 Hit Show. So I really like Jungfrau here. This is going to be my top choice here at 4 to 1. The Bill Mott horse breaking its maiden last time. I know going in a stakes company, but has shown some improvement. As distance has been added and as races have been added. So I expect a step forward here for the 3 horse. So you're looking at me just like I just like I don't know. I'm
No,
talking voodoo or
no,
something
I'm
here.
I'm going to say something that's going to sound thoroughly bizarre, but just give me a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a mile and an eighth is far enough for this horse. I see Arrogate on top. I see Tap It on the bottom. That's a Belmont horse. I think a mile and an eighth may very well be too short for what Jungfrau really wants to do. This is a Juddmonte horse, so stamina is not going to be a problem. I I just don't think he's fast enough right now at this distance. Going 2 back over this same route at Aqueduct, not with all that much of an excuse. I know he was a little bit wide, but he was 6 to 5 against a field that wasn't all that great. He was 4th beaten more than 5 lengths that day, and they went a mile and an eighth in 1:55 and 1. Now, Aqueduct surface can be very, very quirky. You can sometimes see times like these. Early voting, I believe, won this race last year and did so in a very slow clocking. He wound up running second in the Wood behind Mo Donegal, and then he'd wind up winning the Preakness. So times are not everything. Chris McCarron was very fond of saying time only matters if you're in jail. I personally don't subscribe to that. I subscribe to the notion that, yeah, even if the track is quirky, 155 and 1 is probably about 3 seconds slower than what he's going to need to run on Saturday. And 3 seconds at a length per fifth of a second equates to 15 lengths. To me, it just seems like they're trying to bring this horse along. And I understand the ambitious spotting. I understand that, hey, at a minimum, we know 2 turns is not what's going to get this horse beat. I think they're trying to get some seasoning into this horse for that 12 furlong race, the second weekend in June. And if this horse winds up showing up there, Josh, my guess is it's going to be at a little bit of a number. If you were to give me some ridiculous Belmont future on a horse, I think you could do a lot worse than this one, given the pedigree and the running style. I see where you're going. I think there are going to be some horses that don't want to go the distance in the Withers. I think this one wants even more ground.
Yeah, that's fair.
I know it's a ridiculous thing to say about a 3-year-old in February, but doesn't that horse just scream Belmont with the way that he runs? Not really a turn of foot, just a grinding style. And if this is a Belmont that goes in 231 or 232, isn't this the horse that probably wins the race?
Wasn't that who was the horse? I think it was also a Bill Mott horse. Greatest Honor, wasn't that? Was that last year?
No, that was a Shug horse
Was it
from
Shug?
a couple of years ago.
Dude, Shug and Bill Mott might as well be the same person to me. So
I've interviewed them both, and no, but okay.
But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us. I do want to bring one thing up, Andrew. Southwest. They sent me 4 drink tickets, baby. I'm gonna be ready for Vegas here.
Awesome.
I think they
You're gonna be loose when that plane lands.
Dude, it was funny. The other day, it's probably about a month ago, my wife got a letter from Southwest mailed out to her with 4 drink tickets. And I was like, I'm flying Southwest to Vegas. I might need to commandeer those drink tickets of yours.
At which point
and
she said, over my
dead body. Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I've never met your wife. I like her very much.
Yeah. And then so I was like, man, this is bullshit. How are you getting these? And I'm not. And sure enough, today, the letter came. Southwest and their apologies, trying to get back on everybody's good side, apparently, after the nonsense that was January. But
well, I'm flying Southwest a couple of times in the next few months, so maybe I'll wind up getting some of that. I'm flying them back from Hawaii later this month. I'm flying them to and from Vegas in March. And shout out to Katina Media. My company is doing a Katina North America get together in this wonderful little place called San Diego in April. And one of the things they're doing, by the way, they are buying tickets for the Padres Brewers game on the Thursday. Just so happens that's a giveaway day. So I'm going to have a Juan Soto bobblehead on my desk next to my friend Beamy, next to the weirdest trophy I have ever gotten for anything, for the Friendlies Mini Golf Invitational, next to a whole bunch of really weird stuff that's wound up accumulating its way into my possessions. So once again, I live a very weird, interesting life, and hopefully Southwest will recognize that by letting me imbibe at 30,000 feet, hopefully with nobody vaping in the bathroom.
Oh, I was going to say
full circle as we end the show.
I was gonna say, I hope someone's vaping in your on your flight back. But
okay, real quick story. Are you familiar with the plane ride from hell?
I don't believe so.
It's a wrestling story, and one of the things that happened was a gentleman by the name of Brock Lesnar, who, if you cloned him 100 times and sent him into a war zone, you'd wind up conquering everything in about 30 seconds. Speared another gentleman into the side of the plane while it was over the Atlantic Ocean, and people legitimately thought that it might put a hole in the side of the plane. If anybody out there vapes on a plane again and forces me to go through that again, I'm just saying, you've been warned.
You're ridiculous.
I know, but that's why you have me on this show.
That's
You're the
true.
same person who's sipping wine like a sommelier, and I'm the guy in the grandstands, wondering what the hell is going on to this fantastic game we both love.
Oh, well, I think that's going to do it for us, Andrew. Thank you guys for listening. Obviously, if you have not, like and subscribe in
All those
YouTube.
buttons down there, hit them all, hit them
Yep.
all.
Or go ahead and just subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Make sure you download, and yeah, because we really need to make sure that Andrew's Eclipse Award nonsense apparently is our most downloaded episode. So I don't know what people enjoyed about Andrew's Eclipse Award ballot there, but we'll need to top that at some point. But Andrew, you got anything going on this week? Anything fun?
Well, there's this game on Sunday between these winged things from the city of brotherly love and these people from Missouri. That'll be fun. Thoroughly looking forward to that. Fun fact, by the way, girlfriend's birthday, Valentine's Day.
Nice.
Well,
That's great for you.
we're celebrating in Hawaii. Where we basically decided to do birthdays, anniversary, and Christmas with the Hawaii trip that we're doing, just to make everything easier. But no, that's going to be.
So
She's actually going to be at camp with her kids that entire week. So I just got to make sure that Hawaii is memorable. And gee, if only the weather was just a little more perfect. Oh wait, 79 and sunny every day since the beginning of time. Score.
So you're still here next week? It's the week after you're gone, right? Okay.
That's correct.
All right. I already got somebody in mind. I will have to reach out to them to see if I can steal their time for this that episode of Drinking Champagne. But
You just got to be careful stepping into these size 12 wide shoes. Not everybody can do that.
Yeah. But yeah, we will be live tonight, Thursday night at 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern, continuing our bankroll building and bourbon contest. I am at $805.
You're going the wrong way.
I was at 940, and I thought I was just gonna end it, and I couldn't. And but luckily, Mark and Caleb had to rebuy again, so they actually think that I'm throwing on purpose. So that way I can just build this. They make them
They're
keeping on
giving you a
rebuying.
lot of credit.
They absolutely are. I just can't get there. But hey, $200. I think we can do this. So hopefully this is in the last episode.
$800 show parlay, Josh. Just saying.
They actually were like, "Hey, you should." At the end of the night last time, they were like, "Hey, you should bet this horse's show." I was like, "I don't know. I got a bad feeling about this horse." Sure enough, finished like 4th or 5th out of the show. So good job by me here. But
there you go, Josh. Attaboy.
Yeah. All right.
You're slowly learning how to toot your own horn. By this time next year, you'll be just like you. Feel free to use this as the screen grab.
There you go. All right, guys. We'll catch you later.
Have a good night, everybody.